Good morning. On Wednesday, I'm going to be giving a presentation to a high school class, and I thought I would practice the presentation beforehand because it's also relevant to a lot of museums. Um, the exhibition for the high school class is going to be Mexico and the Global Agenda. I'm going to do an introduction. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Museum of the Future, review the process of the Murphree Spring project that we did, I guess it was 6 months ago now. Ask for any questions, then talk about next steps. Um, what is the change you're going to create? So I'm a strong believer in the theory of change. And what is the change the museum and or the exhibition are going to create? The objectives of this presentation are: museums are about people, not things. Quick mention of theory of change. The designer is not the user. The importance of empathy. Museums are not neutral. Customer experience. Remaking museums as agents of change, embracing diversity, deepening community engagement, and focusing on social justice. Kathleen McLean was one of the people that was part of the reopening of the Oakland Museum. And I feel strongly about this quote, that museums are agents of change. They're about embracing diversity, deepening community engagement, and focusing on social justice. So this is our strategic plan for the Discovery Center at Murphree Spring. This is the Discovery Center. So Murphree Spring Wetland is immediately adjacent to the Science Center. So there's the Science Center, and then you can walk out the door of the Science Center and go directly to the wetland. What's the purpose of this strategic plan was the Science Center has been successful with a younger audience, specifically 7 and under. And what they would like to do is to become more of a typical Science Center audience, which is more about 8 to 12 than 7 and under. And they would like to have more people that use the wetlands, see the Science Center as a laboratory for the wetlands. Um, so when we started the project, we got information about the Science Center, 128,000 visitors, 22,000 visitors coming from school. And then we started looking at the population. So the population of the immediate area is 146,000. And it was this number that jumped out at us. White alone, 72%. And so that means that approximately 38% is not being represented in the visitorship of the museum. Um, Not to be too unfair, this is the staff of the Science Center. You'll notice that all of the people of the management of the Science Center are white. Um, and that's also reflected in the visitorship, except for school tours, school group tours. Predominantly, the visitorship of the museum is white. The designer is not the user. What do I mean by that? That if I'm the designer of the strategic plan, I am not the person that I am designing for. I need to have empathy for that person. Um, I am an observer of that process. I have empathy for that process. I would even go as far as to say it's important that I have love for those visitors. But I'm not the visitor. I am creating an experience for others. Um, so sometimes that gets lost on people. People feel that, well, if I like it, others may like it. Well, not necessarily. That's not about empathy. Empathy is about others. Um, so in the process of putting together this strategic plan, we wanted to, so the change we wanted to create was having people from the wetlands see the science center as a laboratory and increase the visitors that look like Malia. Malia is a real person. This is an empathy map of Malia. And it was important for us at the very beginning to say, we want more people like Malia to visit the Science Center. This is Malia's mother. And then Prentice. Again, Prentice is a real person. The Science Center does have a um, volunteer group of younger people that they hope to become floor staff and hopefully move into the management of the science center. So far, that process has not been too successful. So again, we wanted to think specifically about who were we hoping to be involved in this process. This is Katie, again, a real person, Nathaniel, and Dominic. This was an important part of the process. Dominic is a real person. This is based on the founder and CEO of FedEx, who does happen to live in the area. And these are all the stakeholders. But Dominic is an important part of this that we want to reach Dominic as well as Malia. Um, so sometimes in this process, these are the tactics. So I'm jumping ahead a little bit to the tactics, but the strategic direction is water connects us all, water cycle, watershed, climate change, biodiversity, ecosystems, nature conservation, water conservation. That's what we're hoping people gather from this new strategy of the Science Center. These are the tactics of that strategy so that visitors visit online, downtown, from the school. Nature Play is this new exhibition that we are proposing as part of the strategic plan that connects the Science Center to the wetlands. And the way we did that is this is a bubble diagram. In the middle is the main gallery of the Science Center. Here's the city center. What we're proposing is you create these nature pods. The nature pods are miniature science centers placed in areas where Malia and her family may visit so that they start to have a comfort level to come to the science center. So people that look and are part of the community of Malia. This is the content that we would include as part of the new nature play. This is a system map. This is the nature pod that we place in communities. This is the city center, driving to the city center, parking, nature pod. Again, so connecting the wetlands to the nature pods. Paying for the tickets, enter the museum, second floor, first floor, exit to outdoor section, nature play, nature pod, wetlands, and then reverse going home. So this is the courtyard of the Science Center, which is again adjacent to the wetlands. And we tried to create an experience that tied the wetlands to the Science Center in terms of content, but also in terms of the audience that we want to reach. So these are the nature pods. These would be placed in areas where a new group of people like Prentice would be working at these nature pods to include new communities for the Science Center, how to engage that 28% of the local community, which is not being represented in the museum visitorship. This is a logo that we came up with for Nature Play. So this is one of the nature pods placed in downtown. Um, and these are small. They can be put on the back of a flatbed truck. So if we find that we're not reaching communities in one area, we pick it up and we put it in a new area. This is at the entrance to the Science Center. So to the right is the wetlands, to the left is the Science Center. So now, again, the wetlands is to the right, Science Center is to the left. So right over here is an entrance to the Science Center. Around the front of the building is where you would uh, buy your ticket to the Science Center. Sometimes when we're doing these projects, people think that you should start with the exhibits first. We feel a little bit differently, that it's the strategy and the change that you're trying to create that you start with first, then the content to design the exhibits, the visitor experiences, pretty straightforward. I often say it's not the building that's tough, it's not the exhibits that are tough, it's the institutional culture to reach the changes that you're trying to create that are difficult. So this is facing the wetlands. So the people in the wetlands can see this and hopefully be attracted. So they want to go to the Science Center and understand the connections. This is an outdoor laboratory, an outdoor science exhibit. This is one of the nature pods in the wetlands. So the process that we like to use is clearly stated change the project will create. So we're the change that we're trying to create is connecting to new audiences in the area, capturing that 28% that's not being represented in the current visitorship. Understanding the context, demographics, and stakeholders of the local area, mapping, most importantly, empathy mapping of the people of the change that you're trying to create, understanding the audiences of the change, strategy, including the stakeholder analysis. The tactics are the programs and the exhibits, known performance indicators, KPIs, and metrics, testing, evaluation, and iteration, the marketing of this change, and then the launch. So I hope that I've covered that museums are about people and the change that you're hoping to create, the theory of change, that the people creating these experiences are not the visitor, they're not the user. Just because I like something doesn't mean the people of the change are going to like it. The importance of empathy, that museums are not neutral. This is a strategy. We are trying to achieve something. This isn't just going to happen. We are trying to do this. And customer experience is the overall connection, emotional, intellectual, between the institution and the people that you're trying to reach. Remaking museums as agents of change, embracing diversity, deepening community engagement, and focusing on social justice. Thank you. I'm going to mention a couple potential next steps, but that's pretty much the end of the presentation, unless there's any questions. Um, what change will the high school students exhibition create? What is the strategy for accomplishing that change? Who are the stakeholders? What is the visitor's journey to create the behavioral change? The next steps would then be mood, mood board, journey map, tactics, which are the exhibitions and the programs, the content, audience testing, and floor plan. Thank you. Hope I didn't talk too fast, but thank you for being part of this. If you have any questions, please leave them below in the YouTube channel. Thanks.